Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Today's our 107th day, and for today we're going to continue to focus our work on reflections, and we're going to have a specific focus on how our reflections related to this concept of congruence. And you should recall maybe from yesterday that congruent we started to learn is talking about two figures that have the same shape and the same size. I apologize if my voice is a little scratchy today. Our girls scored 50-something points yesterday, and it took a lot out of my voice to keep screaming and yelling as our girls kept scoring points. Congratulate them as you see them on a great win, and congratulate our boys who had a great win as well yesterday. So at this point, you should have already read today's objectives and key terms. That should be done right away before you start doing the problems. And you and your partner also should have tried to complete today's exploratory problems on your own. At this point now, you're watching the video step 3, and hopefully if everything looks good on exploratory problems, you'll be moving on to practice problems on your own. So, as we focus on reflections again today, for the first set of exploratory problems, we were given this green triangle here. We were asked to label the coordinates for the green triangle, and I'm going to ask that you do that on your own. That's a skill you should have. I'm going to focus on part 2 for my quick recap. If we were going to reflect this triangle, ABC, the green triangle, reflect it across the x-axis, and we're going to make the purple triangle, ABC prime, is the image. So the key for reflections is to identify your reflection line. In this case, it's the x-axis. So I'm going to actually go ahead and draw in a quick red line here that just goes right over the x-axis. 1 second. And this line is showing us here, not perfectly straight, so bear with me. This is what our reflection line is going to be here. This dotted line is what we're going to be reflecting the green triangle across. We can think of reflections as mirrors. A reflection is just going to be showing us at the end of the day. The purple triangle is going to be on the exact opposite side of this mirror. One key thing you're going to have to realize, some students might try to drag and stretch this around that way to do a reflection. The easiest way, thank you to Shania for figuring this out, if we right-click or do a secondary click on the purple triangle, underneath the rotate menu, confusingly, they have both reflections, the flips, and rotations. Here I'm going to be flipping across the x-axis from bottom up to top. So I know that kind of flip is a vertical or an up and down flip, so I'm going to flip my triangle vertically. Here, the big key to see, A is 2 units away from the x-axis, B is 2 units away from the x-axis. So now this part here should be 2 units away from the reflection line, and we can see that the top point, C, was 4 units away from the reflection line. So the new C up here is going to be 4 units away from the reflection line on the opposite side of that mirror. Go ahead, label the other points. A comes in there, and you'd pull B over to there. And we see when we do a reflection that our point C flipped all the way from the bottom of the triangle, and now it's pointed up at the top of the triangle. Part 3, and this is what we're going to continue to focus on more today, this idea of congruence, or if these two triangles are congruent to each other. We should recall that congruent, if we're talking about two figures or two shapes, just means that they have the same exact shape and the same exact size. How do I know that the green and the purple triangle are congruent? If I just flip the green triangle upside down, the purple triangle has to be the same size. Other explanations you might have, they're both right triangles. They both have legs of 3 units by 2 units for each right triangle, 3 units by 2 units. So we could actually inspect and look at the graph and see 3 by 2, 3 by 2 right triangle. They're both congruent. But we know if all we did was reflect the green triangle, flip it over, they have to be the same size and the same shape. Moving into part B now. For part B, again, you were going to be asked to do a reflection. This time that's across the y-axis. I'm sorry to be moving quickly here, but we're going to reflect across the y-axis and then translate this time down by 7 units. So after we do our reflection across y, we're going to do a second thing translating down 7 units. So as I open this graph here, first thing I need to do is reflect across the y-axis. This is my y-axis. I'm going to be flipping side to side. So when I grab this blue triangle, I'm going to go ahead and do a horizontal flip this time a side-to-side flip. So we'll go into the rotate menu where reflections are also confusingly hidden. We hit flip horizontally. And now if our reflection line is the y-axis, I see P and Q are 2 units to the right of the y-axis. So now I want that side, not perfect, try again. P and Q now are both 2 units away, but this time something's a little trickier. We're going to label the new triangle. Instead of calling the new triangle PQR prime, we're going to call it XYZ. So the key to see here, P is going to become X, Q is going to become Y, and R is going to become Z. So again, P is going to become the X because PQR is becoming XYZ. So this one would be X. Y is going to be the right angle because Q becomes Y. Those are the right angles. And R became Z. R flipped all the way over to the left side where Z is now. Again, now they're going to talk about for part 2 and part 3, they have to do with congruence. Part 2 says which angle in triangle XYZ is congruent to angle Q. As we just talked about, angle Q flipped over and became angle Y. We can actually see that right away here. Q becomes angle Y. So hopefully you realize why angle Y is the one that's congruent to angle Q. The last one was an optional challenge problem. If you have questions about that, grab me or Miss Stewart, talk to classmates. We're not going to have time to cover it in this video today. Thanks for watching the end of the video. Keep up the great work on Wednesday. Definitely use Classroom Q to let me, Miss Stewart, or Mr. Chu know when you have questions and need help. But of course, you should be checking in with your partners first.